Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Safe Zone podcast. My name is Brittney. I'm a mental health guidance specialist, and I'm also a meditation guide. I have been within the mental health field for about 8 years now, and I have been doing this podcast as of this year. This podcast is meant to be a space that every time you are here, you are supposed to, or at least my intention behind each episode and this podcast is to help you leave here, 1, more peaceful, 2, more aware of yourself, and also more aware of human behavior and other people and situations. You should or supposed to be walking away from every episode having a little bit more knowledge about mental health, a little bit more knowledge in your toolkit, psychology related. And as I said, as much as we learn things about other people, we aren't that different to everybody else. So as much as we learn stuff about other people, we also want to learn stuff about ourselves. Every episode is designed to be some type of tool, some type of perspective, something that I think will be useful to anyone to make more aware, empowered choices out there. Yeah, and this episode is none the different. So as you may notice, I got a new mic. I'm not holding a phone anymore like I have been for the past 2 episodes. Woohoo! So I am hoping that means that this audio is pristine. Yes? So if you'll see me looking over here, it's because I'm just making sure that my mic is filming and recording, because I have had enough horror stories in my YouTube, Spotify life. Anyway, this episode 9, is called Understanding Defense Mechanisms. Defense mechanisms, this terminology is such a commonly used term. Sometimes it's used very accurately and sometimes it's misplaced. So because of just how much is in our everyday lingo, that's one reason why I thought this would be a useful episode to help you all make sure that when you're using the term, you're using it correctly and you're placing that term on the correct defense mechanisms. And because it's such a frequently used term, again, I think that we should know exactly what we mean by it. Second reason why I think this episode is useful, because I think that it helps understanding defense mechanisms, in my perspective, allows us to understand humans a little bit more. It allows us to understand humans beyond just their words. People tell you a lot more with their behaviors, their mannerisms, their emotions, how they decide to respond to something other than just the words that come out of their mouth. So this is going to help you gain a little bit more awareness behind particular behaviors that you may have just seen as behaviors, but now that you are able to acknowledge and identify defense mechanisms, you can realize that that behavior has a lot more behind it. And third, any form of education and awareness helps us develop a little bit more self-awareness. So this is more information for you to learn more about yourself, to be able to reach for healthier coping mechanisms and more self-awareness. Healthier coping mechanisms all point to higher self-esteem, which we should all be trying to achieve. Yeah? So that's my reasons why I chose this episode as a defense mechanism, and also a kind of hidden reason why is I give some of my clients these podcasts to listen to outside of our private meetings. And because defense mechanisms is such a common term that I bring their awareness to, I'm like, you know what, this episode would also serve like a 2-in-1, so I could be like, go listen to this podcast episode, check me back next meeting, we'll talk about it. Yeah, so it's kind of a little recorded lesson as well for private clients and also my lovely listeners. So what are you to expect in this episode? We're going to talk about what exactly are defense mechanisms, where did it come from, who established defense mechanisms, who came up with this term. We're going to talk about 11 defense mechanisms that are commonly used. There are a lot more defense mechanisms than 11 defense mechanisms, and I'm also going to attach images as we go through to help you acknowledge more defense mechanisms, but I pulled out like 11 of the most commonly used defense mechanisms. And at the end, I always like to give you all some type of tips, some type of reason why and how to apply the information that we're going to learn in this episode. So at the end, I'm just going to touch on about 3 reasons / tips or benefits that come from applying defense mechanisms, or at least applying the awareness you have behind defense mechanisms into your life. If you haven't been here before, at the end of all our episodes, because I am a meditation guide, I cannot help but do a little mini meditation, a little mini mindful moment, just a little pocket to help you all calm the body, calm the mind, and leave this episode with a little bit more peace. Yeah? Okay, so without further ado, let's get into it. What are defense mechanisms? Defense mechanisms are unconscious strategies that the brain uses to protect itself from uncomfortable truths, anxious situations, anxious feelings, anxious thoughts. Let's go over that definition very quickly. Unconscious, which means that you may not even be aware that you're using it, and you don't go through an intentional selection of, I am going to use this defense mechanism and I'm going to apply it here. Defense mechanisms are unconscious strategies, unconscious tactics, psychological tactics that your brain uses. You do not need to give the okay for the brain to use it. And a lot of people that use defense mechanisms do not know that they are using defense mechanisms. So again, they're unconscious strategies that are meant to protect the brain or protect the self or protect the self-esteem from whatever is making it anxious, making it uncomfortable, and something that the person may not be emotionally mature enough to sit with and process, or may not have the capacities given their situation and setting to sit with whatever is going on. Again, it's meant to protect the self and self-esteem. Now, defense mechanisms aren't all bad. Defense mechanisms become bad when that's all that you're using. If you at some point do not stop this defense mechanism and you actually find a moment to sit with it, actually find a moment to acknowledge the truth or acknowledge the feelings or acknowledge the thoughts that are coming up that you're trying to avoid, and you continuously use defense mechanisms, we know enough about avoiding something that the more you avoid it, the bigger it grows. There's no actual solution that comes from it. So it's not bad, because we can't sit with our thoughts all the time. Not every setting. If something very emotional pops into your mind in the middle of work, you can't sit in the middle of work and unpack that at that moment. So you may use a defense mechanism in that moment to be productive and focused. So defense mechanisms allow us to be productive, allow us to show up, allow us to function and do what we need to do when we are not in the ideal setting and situation or mental frame of mind to deal with whatever it is head on. It only becomes negative if we are only using defense mechanisms. And even when we don't need to use it or we should not use it, we're still making use of it. Yeah? A guy named Sigmund Freud, if anybody dived even a tiptoe into psychology, you would hear Mr. Sigmund Freud's name. So Sigmund Freud is one of those like grandfathers of psychology, one of those like first people to contribute to the whole world of psychology. Sigmund Freud introduced defense mechanisms, and a lot of the bulk behind defense mechanisms was then developed by his daughter, Anna Freud. Yeah, so just bigging up the founders of defense mechanisms. I mean, they didn't create it, but they were able to acknowledge it, identify it, and create terminologies for it. Yeah. So that's kind of the understanding as to what are defense mechanisms. Again, unconscious strategies or tactics that the brain uses to protect itself or protect your self-esteem from anxious or threatening thoughts, feelings, truths that a person may not be able to sit with or may not have the emotional maturity to accept or acknowledge. Cool? We are going to go through 11 defense mechanisms. I'm going to explain what they are, give some random analogy or explanation behind how it can show up in day-to-day life. Move on to the next one. And as I said, at the end of listing out these 11, I'm also going to put up an image that captures a lot more defense mechanisms. And you can also do your own research behind defense mechanisms and see the different lists of defense mechanisms, because there are a lot. 11 is just kind of scratching the surface. So the first two are very similar but different: repression and suppression. Repression is when your brain unconsciously, without your awareness, packs traumatic, uncomfortable experiences down into your unconscious out of your everyday thinking. So it basically, in layman's terms, takes it and shoves it at the back of your brain so you don't have to think about it or feel it. That is when your brain does it unconsciously. Suppression is when you do that consciously. So repression, an example of that are the people that would have had very traumatic childhoods and a lot of childhood abuse. And then when you ask them about it, they are genuinely telling you that, I really don't remember. My childhood is like a blur. I remember pieces. Or, this happened, but to remember the details of that event or that experience, I really can't remember it. They're not lying. They're genuinely acknowledging the truth that at that moment, they cannot bring up these thoughts and memories and experiences up to the forefront of their brain. Now, even when the brain represses it, so the brain does it on its own, your memories aren't lost forever. There are many different types of therapy that you can do to help resurface these memories and bring them back into your brain. Of course, doing it with a professional, a trained professional in a safe space, because for your brain to pack it in the back of your brain to protect you from it means that clearly there's a lot of emotion attached to it and a lot of trauma attached to that experience. So repression is when your brain does that on its own. Suppression is when you make that active decision to say, I don't want to remember this now. So let's say you had a bad relationship, an unhealthy or unhappy relationship, or even an unhappy friendship. And there were a lot of negative experiences behind it. And someone says, hey, what's going on with XYZ? And you go, I don't want to talk about it, I put that at the back of my brain. I don't even want to remember that. Every time it would have popped into your brain, you would have felt so much anxiety, so much discomfort, shame, guilt, fear, all these experiences and emotions that you may not want to deal with. So you make that decision that every time it popped in your brain, you distracted yourself or you avoided it and you pushed it at the back of your brain. You pushed it at the back of your brain, pushed it at the back of your brain. And you have the power over your brain that if you push something in the back of your brain a million times, it will stay there dormant. It does not disappear. It just stays there dormant, right? So the first two, repression and suppression. Together with repression and suppression, those are not the only two that account for why people with abusive experiences don't remember. Because there's also an experience that happens, and I think I touched on this in the episode on vagus nerve, speaking about how the body and brain operate when it is in a constant state of fight and flight, that the neurotransmitter that is released to help you store memories is not released when your body is in a state of panic or in a prolonged state of panic. So sometimes a person does not remember the details of a traumatic event because of repression. The brain puts it in the back of your brain. Suppression, you put it at the back of your brain, or those breaks in the memory where you were physically there, present, but your brain was not functioning in the way it needed to be functioned because you were in such a panic, fight, flight state. Yeah? Next one, a very commonly used one, denial. So, you call a liar out on their lie. You lied to me about this. No, I didn't. How you could say I'm a liar? I am not a liar. look, the evidence is right here. Look, you said it in a message. That didn't happen. Not at all. Deny, deny, deny. Yes, you can turn them as liars, but you need to see it deeper than that. You need to see that they clearly do not have the emotional maturity to sit with the truth that you are trying to present them. So they much prefer the comfort of denial. Again, the mere fact that they are denying this event, when you are logically able to be like, you are saying the sky isn't blue, but the sky is blue. The mere fact that they are denying, again, I say, and I said it in the beginning of this episode, a person does not need to tell you something with their words for you to understand what they're saying. Someone telling you the truth is not going to have to get on and defend themselves and deny. And you know what? If they tell you they didn't do something, and this is a person that is an honest person, and you present them with the factual data, an honest, true person is going to go, I really say that, boy? I'm real sorry. I can't remember saying it, but they are able to take the accountability. So a person denying something flat out, especially if they're getting all worked up, guilty conscience needs no accuser, right? So denial is another very commonly used defense mechanism. And you can frustrate yourself till thy kingdom come. Or when you acknowledge that they are denying something that you know is the truth, you can take that message as 1, I hit the nail on the head. Clearly, I hit the nail on the head. 2, this person is not mature enough or willing to sit with the anxiety that is coming up in them. Clearly, what I said ruffled some feathers, and the mere fact that it ruffled the feathers should be enough of a message for you, right? So denial, another commonly used defense mechanism. In number 4, intellectualization. I am in an abusive relationship, but I will research abusive relationships. I will follow abusive relationship profiles. I will dive into why this person is abusive. I will dive into their childhood traumas. I will read 10 self-help books. I will do anything that helps me understand so that I, in the space of trying to understand why, can avoid the actual reality that is coming up, that I am just not able, willing, or capable of actually acknowledging it. Intellectualization is a tricky one because I see it very often, and I also see it in clients as well, that a person rather jumps to understanding the whys. What is the theory? What do you call this? What is the term for this? Why does this happen? All of these things to avoid sitting with the emotions that come with it. I rather sit in logic and reason so that I could avoid the emotional experience of what's going on. Because if I sit with the emotional experience of what's going on, it may make me have to make some difficult choices. It may make me realize things about myself that I don't really want to realize, or have to change certain things about myself that I really don't want to. So again, intellectualization is why you will see this is not all people, and I am not capturing all people. There's just a cohort of people that have a library full of self-help books, but they have the world of toxic behaviors and cycles and self-sabotage and narcissistic behavior and yada, 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 yada. Yeah? So, intellectualization, something that this one is like a really important one for your own self to be aware of. Because again, we can get very caught up in the whys and the hows and what's the term, and let me Google this and let me Google that and let me talk about this and let me go and do this course and let me do all of these things. But ask me to sit with it. Whew. Yeah, so intellectualization, trying to intellectualize yourself out of an uncomfortable reality or an emotional experience. Number 5, projection. You ever had someone call you particular terms or say that you are doing particular things that when you think about it, they were the one that's actually doing it? One of the most simple examples of this, and again, being in the mental health field, you see it come up. The person that is the bad friend always attacks the good friend and say, you are a bad friend. The person that's being adulterous, the person that is cheating, that's hiding, that's lying, is the one that's most jealous or pointing fingers at the other person and telling them, you did X, Y, and Z, and you doing X, Y, and Z, when the reality is they're doing it. Another example, they are shouting at you, they are cursing at you and getting on, and they are telling you, do not speak to me like that. But they are the only one shouting and yelling. Stop yelling at me. They are the only one yelling and shouting. You are abusing me. They are the abusive one. You see, the human brain, we know things about ourselves, We know the truth. Not everyone has the maturity, awareness, and growth to be able to admit it and identify with it. So they see it in other people. The people that judge people for this, that are often the people that have those traits, but they just can't accept that about themselves, right? Or are denying those traits within themselves, right? So projection, seeing the truth or traits and behaviors of your own self, but seeing it and putting it onto someone else, right? So be mindful that if someone says, you are a B, C, and this accusation was to be made into a puzzle piece, and there was your puzzle missing a piece, and there was this other person's puzzle missing a piece, and there's this one puzzle piece of what this person said. Sit back and say, does this puzzle piece fit this person's puzzle better than mine? This is where self-awareness comes in, because you have to know yourself. If you don't know yourself, then whatever other people say about you is going to rattle you. You're going to contemplate it. It's going to disturb your peace. But if you are able to know yourself and someone is telling you that you are a liar, you're a dishonest person, but you know to yourself that honesty is actually one of your values. That integrity is a strength that the people around you will tell you that that's one of your strengths. That is going to protect your mind from being bothered by what they see, because the mere fact that they are saying something about you that is so far left from who you actually are says they don't know you, and also is a clear display of projection. So be very mindful for those personalities that want to come at you and attack you and label you and see things in you that oftentimes are stuff that exists within their own self. Yeah? So those are 5 out of the 11 defense mechanisms. Next defense mechanism, humor. Not a bad one, because sometimes better we laugh about it than cry about it. So humor, cracking jokes, just to deflect from uncomfortable situations. Now again, any defense mechanism can become a bad one. So humor is useful because laughter is medicine. Laughter activates our vagus nerve. It helps us regulate. It helps us calm down. In any situation, better to just, be lighthearted and all of that. So humor is useful in those moments where we trauma bond with someone and then we crack a joke after. Cool. But when we're using humor to avoid situations and avoid topics, and you try to ask them a conversation and, round you, your name is Judge, and no matter how much you try to pull out of someone a serious conversation or admittance of something, or just having an uncomfortable conversation, and they are just cracking jokes after cracking jokes. Like it's like if they are allergic to vulnerability. That's a defense mechanism. Be mindful of it. And again, it tells you that this person, whether they know it or not, are clearly not mature enough to deal with whatever's going on. And maybe you shouldn't push. Sublimation. Sublimation is channeling your energy, emotions, or instincts into a productive outlet. Two key energy or types of energies or emotions and all of that are very useful to channel into something. Any form of sexual energy and aggression, anger. The workouts that I have that are fueled by anger, oh Lord, do I be pushing those weights. Taking your anger, your frustration, your sadness, all of these emotions and putting it into a productive outlet, whether it's a physical activity, a creative piece, you use it to fuel your work, your ambition, you take all of that energy and put it into something else. Quick left side conversation. You see this society that we live in that teaches us and normalizes instant gratification, and you feel hot and bothered, go and find an outlet, whether it's an outlet within yourself or outlet within someone else, or you go on the internet and you find something, or you just get the energy out in some shape or form. It's stealing your energy, it's stealing your focus, it's stealing your productivity. If you resist those urges and keep all that very powerful energy within and channel it into a healthier outlet, you're going to be physically healthier. Your immune system is going to be stronger. And again, you may achieve some goals with all of this focused and channeled energy. So again, sublimation, taking emotion, energy, instincts, all of that, and channeling it into a productive outlet. Yeah. Next one, this is more like 2 in 1, but I grouped it as one. Aggression slash passive aggression, right? So aggression slash passive aggression. Aggression slash passive. I had a long day, guys, okay? I had a whole day of meetings today. Give your girl some grace. I'm running out of gas. Aggression slash passive aggression. Say that 5 times fast. You try to have an uncomfortable conversation with someone. A person has a thought or realization of something that they don't really want to know or accept or sit with. Watch them go from 0 to 100 real quick. This kind of taps into the denial thing, because oftentimes denial is paired with some type of aggression. Again, guilty conscience needs no accuser. If you are telling me something that I know to myself I didn't do, I'm going to tell you I didn't do it. And I'm not going to feel the need to fight you down. I'm not going to get all riled up. I'm not going to bother up myself, because I know to myself, no, it's not true. Whether you acknowledge that it's not true or not, I know my truth. But if you try to tell me something that I know is true, and I decide to deny it, or you are just telling me something about myself that I don't want to hear, I will get upset. I will start to rile up. I will start to slam. I will start to throw. Aggression is the physical shouting, loudness, all of that. And then passive aggression are the subtle jabs, the side comments, these little like jabs where it's like, someone tried to tell you something, but it's songing like they're nice. But when you really look at the words, they will kind of mean. Passive aggression always leaves you in a kind of like, did that person try to jab me or not? And that's the passive part of the aggression, right? So aggression and passive aggression, again, I always say anger is a bodyguard. Anger is a secondary emotion. If you are feeling angry and all you could say is that made me so angry, I will tell you, go and look at an emotional wheel and actually identify what emotions are coming up behind that anger. So again, defense mechanisms being unconscious strategies to protect something. They're protecting you from certain things. It's easier for me to feel angry about something than to sit and admit that I feel betrayed, sad, lonely, neglected, etc. Yeah? So anger, passive aggression, another defense mechanism. Third to last, compartmentalization. This could be a really good one and it could be a really bad one. Compartmentalization is the practice of keeping certain parts of your life in their separate compartments. So, I have challenges going on at home, but when I reach to work, I close that compartment of my brain. I do not think about home stuff and I'm fully focused in work. When I go home, then I close work off and then I focus on what's going on. But if you're using compartmentalization continuously, then what's going to happen is when I go to work, I switch it off. Whatever's going on at home, I work, but then I want to keep avoiding it. So I work overtime. I take up more tasks than I could actually handle so that I am just caught up in distractions. I reach home and I rather continue diving into work. I don't want to have uncomfortable conversations. I don't want to journal. I don't want to sit with anything. I don't want to ask myself what I'm feeling. I just want to keep using whatever the easier compartments are. I want to just stay in there and just ignore the compartments that are banging and screaming. Yeah. So compartmentalization is a very, very useful one to be able, again, the benefits of defense mechanisms to help us be productive, to help us show up when we need to show up, to give us the discernment as to what are the right setting and situations for us to really unpack anxious feelings, thoughts, truths, etc. But it becomes negative when we are actually in a setting and we're actually in a situation where it's okay to do that and we need to do it. And instead of sitting with it and not trying to protect ourselves. Yeah? Okay. Second to last, fantasizing. This is creating this alternate reality in your brain. Kind of similar to fantasizing is escapism. So this looks like my life and my reality, my home life, my relationships are just not okay. But in my brain, I could visualize this like perfect family, this perfect home life. I have this created perfect parent or spouse or friend in my brain, this alternate life where I am not a mother and I don't have all of this stress. And I just have this little fantasy world that I live in. Escapism part of it and also kind of ties into fantasizing. Like the people that they kind of dive into like anime or another type of alternate world, a different, species or those types of shows. Not saying that every person that watches anime is practicing defense mechanisms. But again, if my human life and this human life is challenging the Lord, everybody knows that. Yes? That is easier for me to just pretend I am in this show and in this character and pretend that this character is my friends or my partner, or I am this particular species in this particular culture, etc., etc. And I just rather kind of douse myself in this alternate reality, this other world, versus just actually sitting with what's going on, the reality of what my life is, and actually working on solutions or things to change within myself or around me. Yeah? And the last defense mechanism, am I pronouncing this right? Somatization. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. This one is a little bit more serious, right? So there's a lighter version to this and there's a more serious version to this. So the lighter version is when repressed or ignored or something is going on emotionally or traumatically around, and I turn it into like a phantom physical illness. You're having an argument, for example. You're having an argument with someone, they start to realize they're going to lose, and all of a sudden they go, Oh God, I'm just feeling lightheaded. Oh God, I have a headache. I think I'm gonna vomit. You know, or like, you know how they see, like, you see those videos where like somebody's spouse get caught cheating or something like that or whatever, and all of a sudden now they in the bathroom vomiting. The one who get caught, they in the bathroom vomiting, or they faint away or whatever, like some physical illness manifests. Again, it's really hard for you to continue arguing with someone with a headache now. So that's kind of how they kind of avoid it. Now, that's the lighter version of it. The more serious version is the amount of research that's been done that shows this mind-body connection, and the fact that repressed and unresolved traumas manifest in the body. Very simple ways that you can see it showing up. A lot of people, a lot of sexual abuse victims, women that were abused at some point in their childhood or teenage years, at some point, often have some type of reproductive health challenges. Again, I'm not saying this captures everyone, and not every reproductive health challenge, PCOS, endometriosis, fibroids, all of these things are connected to sexual abuse. That's not what I'm saying. But there's a lot of research that sees a correlation, and I also see it in my own clients, that there are a few of them that have these particular illnesses or challenges. And when we unpack it, at some point in their childhood, they experienced abuse in some shape or form. Another random connection, a lot of people that were in homes or in situations where they were not allowed to speak up, have a say, share their opinion, develop some type of thyroid problem. Yeah. People that keep a lot of tension, anxiety, anxiousness. There's a physical tightness that happens in their shoulders. There's a connection. There are lots of books. The body keeps the score. This mind-body connection, this whole reality that what we don't deal with on a psychological level, and we think it goes unnoticed, the body manifests illnesses, challenges, different stuff that show up in the body that are often connected to the timeline of certain experiences, traumatic events, unresolved stuff. Yeah? So that's a more serious thing. This is, again, there's a serious reality behind the impact of unresolved stuff. And understand that trauma and traumatic events are not always the abuse or horrible, dramatic experiences. Trauma can also be embarrassing moments, neglect, anything that caused some type of emotional reaction and shaped us in some shape or form. And again, we cannot always get that awareness with self-reflection and self-help books. This is where trained professionals come in handy to be able to safely unpack these things, safely take these things out of the back of your brain, safely put it back, and help you understand the impact of certain experiences, and help you on your journey and support you on your journey of healing. And if we don't do that, there is a price to pay. And the price is not always unhealthy relationships, dysfunctional relationships, low self-esteem. Sometimes the price is our own health and life. All right. Those are all the defense mechanisms that I'm going to cover today. As I said, I'm going to put up an image now that shows a few more defense mechanisms. And I'm not going to say that the image that I'm going to put up is going to have all of them. So please do your own research to continue building your awareness of what defense mechanisms are, so that you are better able to identify it in people and also able to identify it in yourself. Last group of content in this episode: reasons why we should apply defense mechanisms, the benefits applying it, tips to applying it, etc. Firstly, knowing defense mechanisms allows you to notice them in other people And when you notice someone is using a defense mechanism, it tells you a few things. One, you've hit the nail on the head with this person. You don't need a person to admit something to you or to use their words to actually allow you to know that what I'm saying actually is resonating with this person. You can see it. Again, people say a lot more with their non-verbal communication and their behaviors than just their words. But aside from that, it also is supposed to signal to you that this person is unwilling to acknowledge this truth, unwilling to sit with these thoughts, these emotions, that they may not be ready to sit with these thoughts and these emotions. That's also a signal to you to stop pushing, to take a step back. This person may not be ready. You want to help this person talk about this experience in their life, but if they know to themselves that they are not ready to do that, you pushing and pushing and pushing is not going to have a good impact, and then you can go and play victim after when you get the brunt of whatever you ignoring their boundaries or their signals costed. And also, it shows to you that this person is clearly emotionally immature. Age is one thing. Age does not tell you anything about maturity. There are 20-something-year-olds with the maturity of 40-year-olds. And there are 40-year-olds with the maturity of 20-something-year-olds. Right? So age does not say anything about emotional maturity. Right? So a person using defense mechanisms based on the type of defense mechanisms that they're using, again, one, being able to spot it. But not just spot it, understand why they're using it, and it's either going to help you decide whether this person is a safe person to continue connecting with, or it may even give you empathy to go, you know what, clearly this person is really, like, what I think is something simple is actually really making this person anxious and uncomfortable, so maybe I should step away, or maybe I should step away for now and then reapproach with a little bit more compassion, love, and understanding, and a different approach, or in a different setting. Maybe they may be more receptive to that, right? So firstly, it allows you to notice defense mechanisms and also understand a little bit more behind the behavior that you're seeing showing up. Secondly, knowing defense mechanisms and understanding the different types of defense mechanisms helps you become aware of yours. Do not think that you don't use any defense mechanisms, because again, half the times when we use it, we're not even aware of it. So notice the times where someone is telling you something and you're denying it, or you're just cracking a joke out of it, or you're just, taking your attention elsewhere. You're just enjoying healthy/unhealthy distractions, and you are actually using a defense mechanism to avoid something. The mere presence of a defense mechanism signals to you that there's something else that's coming up, that's making me feel anxious, that is threatening my self-esteem or my peace or my sense of self. And clearly I need to unpack it. Why ignore a threat? If you have a home and something is outside threatening the safety of that home, sitting inside and going, I'll just put on the music and I'll just dance around and I'll just ignore that there's a threat outside, does not make the threat disappear. And it may actually increase the chances of something dangerous happening. Third thing, notice when you are using defense mechanisms or when someone else is using defense mechanisms, and check in to see if there is a healthier approach you can use towards whatever the emotion is that you're trying to avoid or the thoughts that you're trying to avoid. Notice in the moment, whatever popped in my brain, I didn't even want to think about. But you know what? In this moment, I'm in the middle of the mall, so I don't think I can sit with this. But let me make a little note on my phone and plan a time to sit with it. Or I think I'm avoiding things and I actually need to use a healthy outlet or healthier coping mechanisms. Defense mechanisms are avoidant tactics. Avoidant tactics, avoidant behaviors are what characterizes unhealthy coping mechanisms. Unhealthy coping mechanisms are not about nutrition. Unhealthy coping mechanisms are anything that we are doing that is avoiding the problem, not finding a solution, distracting us, or bringing more chaos into our mind and body. From the moment you realize that you are using an unhealthy coping mechanism, and defense mechanisms may be one of them, that is supposed to signal that there is a problem. There is something going on, and I need to find a pocket and plan a pocket for me to use healthier coping mechanisms. What did you say? What are healthy coping mechanisms? Well, you should check out what episode was that? I don't even know what episode it is, but you should check out the podcast episode on healthy coping mechanisms. Yeah? Which episode? I could tell you which one it is, Let me tell you. It is episode 5, Healthy Coping with Stress. In that episode, I talk about unhealthy and healthy coping mechanisms, and I give you some examples of healthy coping mechanisms. So, when you are noticing that you are using a defense mechanism, or you notice someone that you love is using a defense mechanism, that means that they are trying to avoid something, and you should be the one to encourage them and educate them, or join them in a healthy outlet or a healthy coping mechanism, so that you veer them away or veer yourself away from avoiding, because avoiding is not going to fix anything. And if you avoid something too long, it becomes a lot more dangerous than it was day one. Yeah. And that's all the content for today and today's episode. I always put up some journal prompts, some things for you all to work on and reflect on between episodes. So I'm going to put that up now. So these are just recommended home assignments, journal prompts, things that you can do to help apply the information that you learned in this session. Again, to help you learn more about yourself, do some reflection, lots of healthy coping, approaching the problem, approaching the whatever's going on, finding solutions, building self-awareness, all of that. So I hope you all make use of those. I'm also going to ask you all now to list 3 things that you are grateful for, any 3 things at all. Any 3 things at all. So you list 1, and I would say safe travels today to work, back to work, to office, and by the grace of God to home. List another one, another thing that you're grateful for. I am grateful for my mic. We got a mic. We got good audio. Praise the Lord. And 3rd, what are you grateful for? What's the 3rd thing you're grateful for? My 3rd thing is my career, my job, my vocation. I am very grateful to be chosen as a vessel to be a safe space for people, that I have been given skills, talents, access to education, a clear thinking brain, all that I have that helps me do what I do for both my private clients as well as my people that come to meditations, people that come to workshops, and even day-to-day conversations. I am very blessed to be in this mental health field. Or is it challenging? It ain't for the week back at all. But I wouldn't change it. I would not change it a day, and I'm very grateful to be doing something that I enjoy and that helps souls along their journey. So, as promised, we have a little mini meditation, a little mini mindful moment. Disclaimer: if you are driving, if you are not in an environment that you don't have to pay attention to your surroundings, if you are driving, if you are not in a safe space, please do not do the meditation. Pause it, come back to it later on in your day or on your off day when you're in a setting that is a little bit more conducive to a mindful moment for you to be able to safely withdraw your attention around you and bring it inwards. If you are in a safe space that you are able and capable to do this mini meditation, let's bring ourselves into a seated position. I'm going to ask you all to do either two things. We're either going to do butterfly chest taps or hands on your hips, on your thighs. Right? This is called bilateral stimulation, which is stimulating both sides of your body. It's very calming for the nervous system. So one version is crossing your hands and putting your palms on your chest. Right? So your right palm should be on your left chest. Your left palm should be on your right chest. If you are doing leg taps, you are bringing one palm on one thigh, the other palm on the other thigh, relaxing your arms. We're going to lift one hand and gently tap it down. Other hand, gently tap it down. One hand, gently tap it down. Other hand, gently tap it down. We're going to keep doing this. All right? If you're doing it on your thighs, it's going to look like this. All right? So gentle signals to the body to help calm us down. I'm going to invite you now to close your eyes. We're closing our eyes because our sense of sight is our most distracting and overstimulating sense. So when we close our eyes, we bring a lot of our awareness inwards and away from distractions. Now I'm going to ask you to bring your awareness into your belly, and let's start inflating our belly with our inhales and deflating our belly with our exhales. So inhales are going to make your belly nice and big like a balloon, and exhales, your belly button are going to come towards your spine. You're going to contract your belly. So nice belly inhales and exhales while we're maintaining this bilateral stimulation. Keep it going. Slowing down your breath. Keeping your inhales and exhales through your nose. Beautiful. Last part of this little mini meditation. I'm going to ask you to count from 10 backwards. Not fast. Let it be 9, 10, 9, 8. Right? So on that pace. So you're going to start on your own time from 10. Beautiful. If you were counting at that pace, you should have completed that count from 10 to 1. And let's do that count one more time. From 10 straight down to 1. Taking your time, counting backwards. Beautiful. Bringing your attention back onto your breathing. A couple more nice big belly inhales through your nose and long exhales through your nose. Pausing the bilateral stimulation. Bringing your hands onto your thighs. Feeling the warmth underneath the palms of your hands. Noticing your mind and your body, your heart rate, your body temperature. Your brain has to be fully focused to count backwards. Your brain could autopilot, count forward, but counting backwards is a very mindful activity because your brain has to stay focused to count backwards, or else you are going to mess up and start to go forward. One more nice big breath in through your nose, into your belly. And long exhale. Exhale as long as you can. Belly button coming into spine. Nice long, long, long exhale, exhale, exhale. Back to normal breathing. Gently fluttering your eyes open when you are ready. And that's it for our episode today. Thank you all very much for listening on Spotify or listening and watching on YouTube. I am committed to these episodes once a month, every month on the 11th, posted at 11:11 a.m. Trini time. It is always an honor and a privilege to share space with you all. It is so lovely knowing that these podcasts can help you all at 2 o'clock in the morning, at 1 o'clock in the day, on a good day, on a bad day, on an off day, on a weird day. That my ability to support you and create a safe space is not only confined to conversations and your accessibility to me. I hope that these podcast episodes continue to bring you some empowerment, continue to widen your awareness and understanding of yourself and other people around you. I hope that when you walk away from these episodes that you feel more at peace within you and around you. And I look forward to seeing you all here next month. If you all have any recommendations or requests for topics, for episode topics, please let me know. It doesn't have to be a refined thing. You can give me some raw materials and I will see what I can make use of. And I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day or lovely rest of your night whenever this podcast episode meets you. I want to send peace to your mind, your body, your soul, your loved ones, to the rest of your week, your weekend. And I will see you all here soon again. Bye, everyone.